Forget the date, forget the hour, and even forget the year. You've just spotted a wrinkle in time. You've entered a dimension in which clocks and calendars have no use. Follow me. Into a timeless story and oracle reading that could change your mind and your life forever. You are now entering Tall Fox Tales. This story is titled Bluebeard. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the story. So I'm telling the story of Bluebeard, and I am telling this story from memory. So you may have heard a different version, or you may know a different version, or you may just be familiar with a different version. I don't know about that. Also, want to point out that if you've watched my first video, the Manui video, I recorded that on my webcam, like on my computer, and it didn't really work out well. I had like a vision, it didn't work out well. So I wanted to like show the cards. So I'm still working and developing a way that works for me, that I can show my cards. But for right now, this is what we got, because I can't stop the messages from coming through, and I really need to tell this story. So, Bluebeard. So the story is about a man named Bluebeard. First and foremost, I want to say that I read this story in the most memorable way. I've heard different versions of the story, but in the one that I'm going to retell is the one that stuck with me the most. And it was in a book titled Women Who Run with Wolves, Women Who Run with the Wolves. And I will also leave that in the description. And in this book, she actually speaks about the blue beard of the man being displayed in a place, and knowing of a person who has seen it with their own eyes. So there is a myth, there is a legend that this is actually a true story, that there was a man with a blue beard, and that blue beard is on display. Just to goes to show you that I really am doing this from memory, because I do not remember where it is on display, but maybe I'll throw that in the description when I check back in the book and check details. Anyways, so Bluebeard. I love this story, guys. So let me get comfortable. Bluebeard is a rich man, right? He has this huge mansion with all of these rooms and bathrooms, because you know rich people always have a bunch of bathrooms. So he has a mansion with all these rooms or whatever, right? So Bluebeard is very charming. He is just beautiful. He has this beautiful blue beard. He is very eclectic. His mansion is filled with all different types of art and music and culture. And he's obviously he's a businessman, so he's very smart and intelligent. So he always knows the right thing to say, etc., etc. Bluebeard knows of this widow in town, and this widow has 3 daughters in the story I read. 3 daughters, and the 3 daughters, he wants to marry one of the daughters, right? He could care less which one, but he wants to marry one. So he goes out there and he's like, I'd like to marry one of your daughters. But although Bluebeard is charming, none of the daughters really seem to be interested, and the mom isn't really like that eager to like send her daughters off with this guy. Actually, it's very odd for him, right? So he's like, okay, well, I can see you don't really trust me. I'm gonna get some shuffling on. I can see you don't really trust me, so basically what I'm gonna do is I want to invite you guys to my mansion, like for the week. I want you guys to come out, and I want you guys to be able to just see what I'm about. Like, I'm a good person. Like, I'm a good person. I have good things to offer you guys. You know what I mean? Like, come check it out. So they're like, yeah, like, we'll come check it out, because they're in town and they're not that rich. So they're like, yeah, we're going to go stay in your mansion for like a week and enjoy ourselves. So that's what they do. They go, they spend the week, they enjoy themselves, etc., etc. At the end of the week, he asks for each of their hand in marriage, each of the 3 daughters' hand in marriage. And the first 2 daughters say no. And then what happens is the youngest daughter actually says yes, and she marries Bluebeard, right? So she marries Bluebeard, and I'm feeling that. The shuffle. I'm going to leave the Tao right here. So what we're doing is we're pulling 1 Moonology, and we're going to do 2 Tao, and then we're going to pull Tarot. So she marries Bluebeard, and she goes to live with him, and they're in the mansion. And what Bluebeard does is Bluebeard gives her this set of keys, and he says to her, everything in the mansion is yours. Like, you can have everything in here. You can do whatever you want in here. Enjoy yourself. What's mine is yours. All of these keys are yours to use except one, right? There's like one tiny itty bitty key on there. And he says, you cannot touch this key, and you can't go in the room where the key belongs. And she goes, well, I don't even know which door it belongs to. And he's like, perfect. Like, so you can't go in there. Don't go in there. There's no reason to go in there. And she's like, oh, Bluebeard, I would never disrespect you like that. I love you. You put me in this beautiful house. You are the love of my life. I would never ever disrespect you like that. Okay. So he says, oh, I know you want it. I just need to let you know the rules, right? So he lets her know the rules. She's like, okay, right? And he's like, well, I have to go off on a business trip, right? So he goes off on this business trip, and like I said, in all the stories, it's all different timings, and all of these timings are relevant, and they're all spiritual meanings, but for sake of our story, we're just going to say he goes on the trip, okay? So he goes on the trip, and when he goes on the trip, he says, why don't you invite your sisters and your mother? Just to have some like company or whatever, or your sisters, right? Not your mother. In this version, it's no mother. He says, invite your sisters, right? So she invites the sisters over, and the sisters are like, well, let's play a game. Like, let's open all the doors. Let's look in all of the, let's just play with everything, right? So they're going through the mansion, and they're having like a wondrous time going through all his beautiful things and all of her beautiful things, and etc., etc. And one of the sisters comes across one of the smaller keys, and the small tiny key, the mysterious key. And she says, what's this key for? And she's like, we can't use that key. Bluebeard said we can't use that key, right? So they're like, oh no, girl, we're about to use this key. Like, we about to find this door. Let's play a game, little sister. Let's go find this door. So they're like, okay. So she's like, okay, like, let's play a game. Let's go find the door. She goes with them. They're looking all around, and they find this tiny red door, right? At the end of this long corridor down in the basement. Well, it is down in the basement, that I remember. So it's down in the basement, and they go down this long corridor, and it's this little red door, right? And she opens the door, right? And when she opens the door, what she sees is just skulls and bones, and the room is just filled with carnage and blood and hair. Just hair everywhere, all different colors of hair. It's sick. And what she does is she obviously shuts the door, and she runs out of there, right? And she is like, oh my God, you guys have to go. Like, he'll be back. Like, we got to pretend this never happened. Like, I don't know what's happening. We have to pretend this never happens. But she looks at the key, and she realizes that there's like a drop of blood on the key, right? And she's like, this wasn't here before. Like, he's gonna know now, right? So she's all nervous and she's scared. So she goes up to her room, and her room, mind you, is filled with, like, obviously her closet's filled with all these beautiful gowns, etc., etc. However, in the story and how it's written, most of her clothing is white. So what she does is she goes into the closet and she tries to hide the key. First, she tries to wipe the key off on her dress, thinking the little stain of blood is just going to come off. But as she does it, more and more and more and more blood is just seeping her dress. So she runs into the closet. She tries to hide the key and she closes the closet door. Bluebeard comes back and Bluebeard is basically like, oh my God, my love, how was your time while I was away? And she's like, it was great. Like, it was amazing. And he's like, where are the keys? And she's like, oh, I lost the keys. And he's like, I know you didn't lose the keys. I know you're lying to me right now. And she's like scared. And he's like, I know you went in the room. And she's like scared. So he walks right into the closet. He opens the closet and her gowns are soaked in blood. Everything is just soaked in blood. And he obviously finds the key and he takes the key out and he's like basically to her like, let's go, we're going downstairs. Like, you will have to pay for disrespecting me. There's always a consequence for disrespecting me. And she's like, I love you. I love you. Like, she's begging for her life. And she's telling him like, I just need a moment. Like, if you're going to do this, then at least allow me to look beautiful for you. Like, I love you so much and I did not mean to disrespect you. Like, please allow me to at least compose myself. He says, all right, fine. He goes downstairs and she's going to collect herself. She goes to, act like she's collecting herself. And as soon as he goes downstairs, what she does is she falls to her knees to pray. But technically, instead of praying, what she does is she starts calling out, sisters, sisters, are our brothers coming? And Bluebeard is down there and the time is like, she thinks she has more time than she does. And it's just like time is moving so fast and like she hears nothing. She can't hear. So she's like, sisters, sisters, are our brothers coming? Are our brothers coming? And the time is moving quicker and quicker and she's on her knees and she's like, sisters, sisters, are our brothers coming? But on the third try, she's like, she got to get up and she's like looking out the window and she's screaming out of the window, sisters, sisters, are our brothers coming? And then on the final yell, what happens is she sees her brothers. I didn't tell you. She had 2 brothers in the army. Yep. Soldiers. And they come rushing in. I'm getting chills when I said that. They come rushing in. And what they do is, because Bluebeard is downstairs, they come rushing in. One of the brothers throws Bluebeard down. And then the other brother, obviously, Bluebeard. But that's not the important part. What they do is they actually they cut his beard off. And they put it on display for people to see. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull energy on both Bluebeard's energy and we're pulling energy on the youngest sister's energy. And if you resonate with either the youngest sister or you resonated with Bluebeard, you'll resonate with this reading. All right, so if you're in this section of the reading, then that means that you resonated with the younger sister. What we did is we pulled the element spread for the Tao. So the first card that we are looking into is the wood, and that is the wood element shows us what was either hindering the youngest sister or what was enhancing the younger sister, right? So in the sense of what was the okay, so it looks like we got some clarifiers on that one, because that's 4 cards. So for the first card, what we have is the cauldron, and the cauldron represents inter-alchemy, mastery, spiritual renewal, contain, rejuvenation, discern, and wisdom. I am going to, like I said, put the spread in like a picture so you guys can see it all pretty and see the cards. But this card is showing us what's definitely was holding her back, what was hindering her, right? She didn't have self-mastery yet, and she didn't look within to find the answers, right? The older sisters don't go with Bluebeard, and that is a very important thing. And not only do the older sisters not go with Bluebeard, but the mother wasn't exactly like eager to send her daughters off with Bluebeard. It was because the sisters knew that there was something off with him. They had more experience. They were older, right? The reason I like the version with 3 sisters is because the third sister represents Earth. It represents the youngest sister. It represents the docile sister who needs to be taught, the naive, the innocent sister who could possibly be on the brink of naiveness if she's not brought to light by the older sisters, right? So, or even and brought to light by the older sisters, and then going within self to find the answers that she needs, right? Which is what the cauldron's about, right? So she didn't have time to have that process. And what the cards are showing for me is that, unfortunately, if you resonate with this story, you may not have had that process, even though you may have felt like you were experienced romantically. And obviously this story is a romantic story, so it's a romantic spread. If you you may have felt like you were experienced romantically, but I'm going to say this in this way, and just have to say it this way, but you don't know, even though you may have experience in romance, dancing with the devil is like a whole different ball game. Like, Bluebeard energy is very similar to like a devil energy, that the devil is a charmer. He looks great. He looks charming. He has this beauty. He's gorgeous, right? But that doesn't make you it doesn't make you naive. It doesn't make you, you've learned now. You've had this experience, right? You've dealt with this Bluebeard energy. Now you know how to manage in the future, right? But she didn't have that experience. So that's what hindered her. That now can be what enhances you. It's taking the time for self-mastery, right? Now for the fire card, which is the personality, right? The inner illumination that was happening inside of the younger sister, right? Is the approach, the advancing, a warm reception, a prosperous condition, increased influence, hopefulness, lightening up, an arrival. She had, and like we said, this is the sense of the third sister. The third sister does have a warm reception. She sees the good in everything. She wants to see the best in people, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. This card is super significant, I feel like, concerning the story, because the story literally, Bluebeard Story is the story as old as time about red flags, right? In the story, we know that Bluebeard had a whole room filled with dead wives. There had to be gossip around town. People knew something wasn't right with this guy. There were red flags. The charm, you can have everything in my house. You're older than me and I'm this young girl, and you're just coming. You wanted to marry any one of us. You didn't care which one it was. Do you even love me? Like, is it me, or do you just want to be in a relationship? And those red flags are red flags that men with Bluebeard energy, they put off so easy. But unfortunately, if you don't have the experience, you don't know. So if you notice, it's like all of that around is like blue, and it's like she's walking into this like blue abyss. She's like, it's so gorgeous, etc., etc. But like, she's literally walking on like a red flag. She's literally walking on a red carpet into her, and I'm gonna say into her destiny, not into her fate. Into her destiny. But yeah, so the fourth card is I apologize. The third card is Earth, and Earth is what is connecting her to her surroundings, what connects her to the other people in the story, specifically in this case, Bluebeard. So it's the attraction of opposites, seduction, temptation, magnetism, A passionate encounter, meeting halfway, coupling, and sexual union. As we know with this energy, with Bluebeard energy, and with the person that you probably have possibly this toxic energy with, this toxic situation with, we all know that, like, you know, they know what they're doing in bed. So, like, you know, and they're charmers. Like, they're appealing. Like, they're very appealing. So it's very hard to kind of like turn that off. And it's hard to like be rude to somebody like that who's so just like, it seems like everything they're doing is in your favor when it's not at all. It's always in their favor, but it feels like what they're doing is in your favor. It feels like they love you, right? It feels like there's just like this chemistry and this connection, and they feel like a soulmate. They feel like something that you just don't ever want to let go and don't think that you can live without, kind of thing, right? And you get so hypnotized by this emotion, by this feeling, that you almost become addicted to it, right? And the young sister, that was what happened to her in the first week. It only takes 3 days to brainwash somebody. That's a scientific fact. With random acts of kindness and random acts of meanness, you can literally brainwash somebody in 3 days. So with a week of them going off, right, and with somebody with a susceptible mind, somebody who's walking into literally a brainwash camp, this brainwash mansion for a week, with a warm approach. The other sisters didn't come with a warm approach. So it's going to take more than 7 days. It's going to take more than a week. It would take years to break a woman like that. And I think that any woman who has high priestess energy, who might be watching this just out of curiosity, knows in her soul. And for me, who's somebody who has been through this energy and has mastered the Bluebeard energy and is now advancing, I know personally it would take years to break me. So I know that in a situation like this, she had to already be susceptible, right? Back to the card 1 of what hindered the youngest sister. She was susceptible. Now, vulnerability isn't something to be embarrassed about, ashamed about, or to feel guilty about. Her vulnerability and her naivete, her innocence, those aren't flaws. And I'm going to talk more about that. And I have a feeling some of that came through with the tarot, and we will pull more clarifiers on that. But I just want to be very clear that when I'm talking and when I'm discussing this, that I am very, very specific when I say that is not a flaw in any way, shape, or form. Being vulnerable to the world, is what keeps us alive and what keeps us out of the Bluebeard energy, right? When you allow yourself to close off to the world, which we're actually about to talk about in a second when we get to this next card, when you allow yourself to, even if you get out of the Bluebeard energy and then you go into the next phase of your life with wrapped up in chains, then you're actually allowing that energy to win, right? Even if you've expelled them from your life, but you're no longer vulnerable because now you have a past experience that may have hurt you, or it was traumatic, it was a tragedy, whatever word you use to describe it, unfortunately, they're still winning. So with that type of situation, you do have to know that vulnerability is not a flaw. It is nothing to feel guilty about or ashamed about. Loving someone and loving somebody hard is something to be proud of, right? Now, you shouldn't take pride in the 4 energy, which is the metal, which is connection to self, right? You shouldn't take pride in being too submissive, right? You shouldn't take pride in things that are unhealthy, but you should take pride in knowing that you have a feeble and active heart that is able and willing to love, right? Taking pride in that part of it, right? But with the connection to self, what we have here for the youngest sister is the Maiden, which is one of my favorite cards. And it's funny because when I was going through my Bluebeard experience, and these cards, these were gifted to me years and years and years ago. And this card would literally pop up in almost every single one of my readings. It was inevitable for it to come up because my connection to self was so faltered that literally the dial would scream it at me. So what this is a compromising situation, subordination, succumbing to seduction, manipulation, and low self-esteem. And it's funny because, as we know, obviously the card right before is seduction, right? That was her connection to the outer world, her connection to Bluebeard. And the connection to self is succumbing to seduction and a low self-esteem. So obviously this connection for her, this attraction of the opposite connection for her, was extremely debilitating. It was extremely debilitating to self. This energy is also 9 energy. 9 energy is the humanitarian. It's of service. Gandhi was a number 9 energy, but number 9 negative aspects is very domineering. It's very selfish. It's very self-destructive. That's the best way for me to say it. It's not even about selfishness. It's about like self-destruction. Like they are destructive. The same how Gandhi wanted to save the world. Picture somebody who wants to like blow up the world kind of thing. Like, and when I say that energy is that Marion Maiden energy gets stuck under the number 9 energy, because usually a Bluebeard energy has like the bad aspects of the number 9. They are a tornado. They want to, like, literally they come in and mess up and destroy everything that they touch, right? So in regard to that, when you're being destroyed every single day, but you're also being like given flowers and you're told you're the wife and you're being given a status or a title, or you're being carroted, I would really look into carroting if you don't know what carroting is, but carroting is when somebody is telling you, they always provide you with something new to look forward in the relationship in order to keep you around. So, you know, in the beginning, with Bluebeard, perfect example. Come to my mansion. It's something to look forward to. Marry me. That's something to look forward to. I have to go on a business trip. You can have the whole mansion to yourself. Something to look forward to. There's always something to carrot the person so that they just stay a little bit longer, right? And that destroys you because you're not connecting to self. You don't have the time, the energy, or even the willpower to really connect to self because you're constantly being destroyed. You're constantly being carroted. You're constantly being gaslighted. When you do express that you're unhappy or things don't feel right or seem right, and you're being gaslighted. So in regard to that, and most of the time I feel like there's really just a lot of fear of not knowing what happens next, fear of not knowing what this person may do. Bluebeard energy is extremely unpredictable. So there's a lot of fear that comes into play when we're talking about a person dealing with any type of Bluebeard energy. So the connection, the last one is the subconscious energy, right? And the subconscious energy shows us what emotions she was feeling subconsciously throughout the story. And I love that this card pulled, only because I am being kind of like matter of fact about this all, but I do feel like this could be possibly, obviously, it's not possibly, obviously this is the Bluebeard story is obviously emotional, and I'm in a matter of fact and I'm in my high priestess mode, so I'm telling it in a matter of fact way that may come off as cold or callous or like non-understanding, like not understanding, unempathetic. Yeah, I think I could come off a little unempathetic in a way. But I will say that this card is here to make sure that I do open up those empathy feelers for you guys, because this card is 34. It's great power, and this is her subconscious energy. I want to say that there is strength of character, authority, dignity, influence, self-confidence, leadership, peak condition, potency, right? The Marion Maiden card is a circumstantial card. This is not in your whole situation, your Bluebeard situation is a circumstantial situation, right? This is not your fate. And the reason I said that this is a path of destiny for her down here, and I didn't say the word fate, is because if it's her fate, that means that she was fated to be with Bluebeard. She was fated. No, you're not fated to be with that person. Okay. That's not how that works. You can skip a soulmate in a lifetime. Trust me. All right. If you manifest properly, you can skip these soulmates next lifetime. I know there's a lot of soulmates I met this lifetime who I'm skipping next lifetime. Right. So you can learn and advance and leave things behind, allow things, energies to die where they need to die in your life so that you can advance and pick up new frequencies, which is very important for the Moonology card that I'm going to discuss in a second. But with this Mary and Maiden energy and this whole Bluebeard energy, this is circumstantial. This is a path of destiny you chose in order to learn a lesson that you needed to learn. There is great power in that. Oh, I'm getting chills. There is great power in that, right? We are beings that chose this life. When you were a soul star up in the earth, up in the sky, and you chose to come down to your parents and choose this life and choose these people and choose these lessons, you chose to experience this Bluebeard energy. So with that being said, you need to look to your influence, look to your strength of character, look to the dignity, look to your peak conditions, right? What were those for her? This card is 34, which is great power, and it's 7 energy. This 7 energy is showing us that it was spirituality, right? Great power, spirituality, inner alchemy. This is obviously all connection to self, her connection to the greater power, her connection. And what's our connection to the greater power? Our connection to the greater power is as above, so below, all that, blah, blah, blah. In regard to this situation, what did she do? She ran up there and she said, sisters, our brothers coming, right? The brothers coming is significant because what else can a brother, represent? A brother has to be a son, and that represents the son, the father, and that represents the male masculine energy, but that also represents God, the heavenly father, the heavenly brother, the angels, right? So the brothers coming in at the end of the story is very, very significant because she knew her great power not only came from self, from her going up there and having enough, obviously, like mental, like she knew to be like, let me get cute for you. Like she knew how to play the game. Once she really realized the game had started, she won it, right? And that's what this card is really telling you. If you're in this reading, that means you know the game has started. Like that's the truth. Like you wouldn't have been attracted to the reading and to the story if you listened to that story and it reminded you, it resonated, or you felt connected to your person while I was telling the story. It's Bluebeard energy all the way. You know it's Bluebeard energy all the way. You know you got to get out. And now that you know you got to get out, you know how to get out. And how to get out is to take that great power within. Call to your sisters, because your sisters, first and foremost, oh, I'm glad we're going to talk about that. The sisters are very important because her calling to her sisters is that female energy, right? Her sisters knew better. They knew what was they knew something was up, right? They didn't have enough evidence to say this guy murdered all his wives, but they knew something was up, right? And that's why they encouraged her to continue to look for the door. That's why they encouraged her to find answers, to find the truth. Your female circle will always do that if they're true friends. So it's saying to really look to that female circle. This story really tells you to look to your female circle so that you're able to like get those answers regarding like true help, right? Your female energy is nurturing. It's divinely here to guide and to nurture and to love, right? So if you can surround yourself with that divine energy, then what will happen is it brings you closer to the Heavenly Father, right? So the cards that were pulled, it's crazy because that one, well, no, okay, I am. Well, the one that fell on the ground that I had to pick up was the death card. And it's funny because when I was saying about the death to old situations, and just really kind of like bringing death to this, like it's over. I'm kind of glad the death card came out because I'm kind of glad this went the way it did because honestly, I didn't intend to do this story this way. I intended to do this story much more loving, much more like, baby girl, like, you got this, da da da. But I'm sorry, like, it's over. It's over. I'm sorry. Call it quits. Um, Ten of Swords. Death or ending of a situation or relationship, and then we obviously have death of a situation or endings, new beginnings. What we have with the moonology, I'm gonna bring this up only because I think it's relevant right this second, is a new romantic cycle begins, a new moon in Libra. So I just think it's obvious, right? Bluebeard energy is always preparing you for your twin flame energy. Right now, in this dimension that I'm in, wink wink, I have been getting so many downloads about twin flame energy. The other story I did, Manawi, if you're watching this and you're already at the death stage, or you've just passed the death stage and you don't know what to do, or you're even coming on the death stage and whatever, if you're watching this, I would watch Manawi, because Manawi energy is the kind of energy you want in your life, right? And the Manawi reading, the Manawi story teaches us how to manifest twin flame energy. Bluebeard energy is not what we want in our life at all. Look, me saying it made me hit my mic. Seriously though, that's not the steez. It's not what we're doing. Five of Wands, arguments and battles. Also, Five of Wands shows me that you're feeling defensive. It shows that there is gonna be a fight about this, right? This isn't gonna be easy. I'm showing King of Wands as well, which is showing that like ambition. Like, I feel like it's kind of like restlessness, outspoken. I just feel like this person, this Bluebeard energy, is going to cause an issue for you. I'm kind of mad the tarot came out with a kind of Bluebeard energy, only because, yeah, I feel like that was relevant for you to know. But obviously we are doing a whole spread on Bluebeard, so I'm not gonna stay away from pulling too much energy on Bluebeard specifically. But I think it's interesting because with the King of Wands and the Five of Wands, this is kind of just like a heat warning. Like, yes, things will end, but okay. That's 100% why those cards just popped up. Okay. All right. I'm talking about this Bluebeard energy in a way that is a little too analytical for me right now. Spirit had to like bring me down a second. The divine definitely had to bring me down for a second. And the reason for it is because those cards were a reminder that Bluebeard energy is dangerous. They are, like I said, if nine energy in its best aspect, it wants to save the world, the nine energy in its worst aspect wants to destroy the world. And this energy, this is what spirit wants me to say. This is what the divine wants me to say 100%. They want me to make sure that you know that Bluebeard energy is the kind of energy that is kind of like, if I can't have you, nobody else can. And this is not easy. When I'm talking about it, like, oh, just bring death to the situation, let it go, da da da. This is not easy. It took years for me to be able to expel that energy from my mind, body, and soul. And even once that happened, even once that occurred, the Bluebeard energy in itself has never been destroyed. It can never be destroyed. And the reason for it is because that other link, the other party, as long as they hold on to any connection with you, it's impossible. I can't destroy the other side of it, right? So just know and understand that this King of Wands energy, this restless, ambitious, outspoken energy who will do anything in their power to get what they want and say anything and just do, like, just unpredictable but very ambitious. Like, you know what the goal is. It's just that the plan can be very unpredictable at times. That's what Spirit's bringing me back. What they're saying. You need a practical plan. I had a practical plan to get out. So what this is saying to you is that this isn't a matter. I'm about to cry. What I would encourage you to do is watch the movie, and the movie is it's really not about well, yes, it is. It's exactly about it. It's just gonna be maybe not your type of movie, but watch Murder by Numbers with Sandra Bullock. But in that movie, what she really discusses is being with that energy. And what I'm imploring to you, I'm not gonna say what she says in the movie. I would really encourage you to watch that movie. But what she talks about in the movie, the energy she talks about in the movie is what this is explaining basically is you don't need to stand up to Bluebeard energy. That is a mistake too many women make. Just think it, plan it, and do it. Move in silence. I'm getting chills. The more they know, the more ammunition they have to use against you. Do not tell them your plans. Don't tell them your dreams. And this isn't even just about your plans to go. Don't tell them your deepest insecurities. Don't tell them what's really on your mind 99% of the time. Start disconnecting on your own without their permission. You don't need their permission. And that is a mistake many Marian Maiden women make, because in certain stages of leaving, we want to prove a point. There's no point to prove. This is Bluebeard energy. It just is what it is when it comes to energy. And I think that's why I talk about it so matter of fact now, is because I have such a higher understanding of energies and understanding that energy can't be destroyed or created. Bluebeard energy exists in this world. There's a duality in this world. There is good and evil, positive and negative. There has to be a balance, right? So with that being said, is that we're never going to be out here expelling and energy cannot be destroyed. That's a scientific fact. So we can't go kill every Bluebeard, right? You can't do that. And you can't go proving a point. That's not your job in the world. Our job, if you watch Charmed, our job is not to punish the demon or to punish the bad. Our job is to protect the innocent. Our job is to help the innocent, right? So our job, and I like to say, my job is to wake up sleeping lions and to help the sheep. You get what I'm saying? My job is not to go out and to find the hunter and to go slaughter the hunter. That's not my job. I may be a woke Black Panther walking around stalking the night, but I'm not about to be out here going and killing hunters, going and killing Bluebeards. Even you hear me talking about Bluebeard, I'm not going to assassinate Bluebeard, because Bluebeard didn't ask, well, Bluebeard did karmically ask for this life, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it is what it is. The same way you were born on this side, they were born on that side. It is what it is. So the less you want to try to stop what you're trying to stop is a process that is as old as time and will continue to happen to other women and will continue to happen to other men. It doesn't matter. It will continue to happen in relationships regardless of what you do in your relationship. You can do things like this where you can help women pull themselves out, or there could be a practice a business that you start that might help women in domestic violence situations, or there may be things that you can do to help the victims or help the innocent, help the survivors, help the women who are coming out of victim consciousness, who want to move into an abundant consciousness. You can do all of that, but you cannot. Damn, I went off on a whole rant. That must mean that's very important. But you cannot stand up to Bluebeard. Okay? It's not war. If you wage war on Bluebeard will pretty much kill you. That's a fact. Because if he can't have you, nobody can have you. So if you tell him he can't have you, he will do anything in his power to make sure nobody can have you. So I'm going to pull a couple more clarifiers. It's funny because the card I didn't mention and the last card that is pulling up is the last card that I didn't say for the Moonology is don't let pride get in your way. Do not let pride get in your way. Do not think that, don't get arrogant. I'm telling you that Leo is filled with confidence. 8 energy can be extremely, extremely confident. Do not be out here thinking that just because you, and this is actually very important, right? Right now, there is a whole fad, a whole phenomenon about narcissists, okay? Unless the person you're dealing with has been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, just stop following trends and listening to ideals that turn this person into the villain in your story, because the longer you do that, the longer you stay in victim consciousness. And victim consciousness has a lot of pride, right? Because victims also often feel like, oh, you did this to me and I got through it, and now I'm entitled to do and say what I want because you didn't said what you want for years. That's not a fact, okay? That's victim consciousness. That's survivor mentality. Now you're turning into a narcissist. That's a fact, right? Most people who are obsessed with narcissism usually tend to have narcissistic personality disorder themselves. And I want to point this out, is that with every duality, right? Good and evil, right? In evil, there's always going to be a spark of good. And in good, there's always going to be a spark of evil, just like with our yin and our yang. With the yin and the yang, there's the divine masculine and the divine feminine. There's a spark of the masculine in the feminine and a spark of the feminine in the masculine. Same with empaths and narcissists. There's a whole like spread of people out there who are basically claiming they're empaths and they have these experiences with these narcissists. And although I do see and I understand why they're using those labels, I personally do not support those labels right now in modern society, because there is a lack of understanding that if you are in an empath narcissist codependent relationship, you have to have pieces of narcissism inside of yourself if you think that you're on the empath side. And if you think that you're in, because I've actually met people who know they're on the narcissistic side, or they claim to or they've been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, etc., but they still claim they have no empathy. And it's kind of like that's not possible. And there's a lack of understanding about just this. I really encourage everybody to just look up duality, look up polarities, look up these different concepts and stop thinking about this stuff as such it's not as mystical as everybody makes it seem. It's not as metaphysical as everybody makes it seem. It's really not. Energy is pretty scientific and it's pretty black and white. It really is. The point is that this situation is circumstantial. This is not a situation where it needs to be written in the history books as you're going to get put on the right side of history and they're going to get put on the wrong side of history. It's just not to that right now, right? It's just not, there's no relationship that is putting two people on the opposite sides of history. Not right now. It's just not happening. The last card I'm just going to pull is Ace of Wands. I'm kind of glad I just pulled one final card. This is your one final message. And it's Ace of Wands, which is new beginnings, the birth, new ideas. I really feel like I said a lot here, so I feel like that's significant for that. We have the new romantic cycle beginning with the new moon in Libra for the Moonology card. So I just think that right now, the best thing is to realize that this, like I said, is circumstantial. There's death coming to this situation. And what will happen next is you will be able to find yourself, I feel like mastering self and mastering what is inside of your soul and no longer giving yourself to people or energy that just doesn't suit you. So I hope this reaches you well. I'm signing off. All right, so if you're watching this one, then that means that you resonated with the Bluebeard energy or you are just curious about Bluebeard's energy. So the cards that we pulled is kind of the same spread. The only difference is that I did pull a general energy that popped up when I did the Tao element circle. So with the card that pulled up in the middle, we're just going to start there. It is also a turning point, a new cycle, right timing, regeneration, inevitability, steady improvements. And what this is it shows the snake eating itself, which is very important, obviously, because Bluebeard energy is very similar to snake energy. And as we discussed in the reading for the girl, everything has a duality, everything has good and bad, and it's very important to understand Bluebeard energy as not saying that it's evil, but just understanding that even with the snake who has evil connotations, there are still beautiful things about the snake. And I say that to say that if you resonate with the Bluebeard energy, it is possible that you are probably being called names right now in your life. You're probably just feeling like a piece of, you know, you probably just have heard a lot of bad things about yourself from other people. And these things are probably no different than the things that you say to yourself, because with this energy, you're probably very hard on yourself. You're probably very insecure. And I don't mean that in a sense of like with your looks or anything like that. I just mean insecure in life, in the sense of like just not feeling like you know exactly who you are or knowing exactly where you're going or what you're doing in this world. And unfortunately for Bluebeard energy, there is a lot of that. There is a lot of confusion because Bluebeard energy is here on this earth for a reason, but you may feel like you do go into everything and destroy it, and you're just not quite sure how it happens, why it happens. You almost feel like it's just meant to, it just, this is just is what it is. And you don't go in maybe necessarily with intentions to hurt people. And I say that importantly because although Bluebeard is conscious of what he's doing, Bluebeard is the example of Bluebeard energy that is all knowing. You know, this is a Bluebeard energy that is aware of what he's doing, and he's on his like 10th wife, right? If you're a young man who's had like one or two relationships and you're seeing the cycle and you're trying to avoid the cycle, which is why you may have resonated with the story and maybe reading this and maybe listening to this, then I just want to say that, yeah, there are situations where the intentions may not, like, they just don't know yet. Like, they're not even aware that they have this energy on them. Now, on the flip side of that, let's talk about a snake that knows it's a snake that knows how to hunt. You know, that Bluebeard energy, I think I'm pointing out that there's a spectrum to the Bluebeard energy, and I'm very happy that snake popped up because it makes it very easy for us to understand, like, without me having to talk so spiritually or talk like it's just very easy to understand a snake, right? But the turning point, the general energy for the story is the new cycle, right? With Bluebeard, and what I was talking about just right there was saying, like, whether you're on your 10th wife or your second, Bluebeard energy, you're most likely going to have multiple relationships. Like, this isn't going to be a thing where you come on this in this life and you find the one. And if you do, she's a Maiden energy and she just doesn't know better and she's just not looking to get out of it, and whatever, maybe that's your guys' fate. But if that's your fate, you wouldn't be listening to this. So you are going to find somebody else. Like, say you're in a situation right now where you're like, what you're at the part in the story where, you know, this person has found out your secrets, found out things about your past that make them uncomfortable, or they just, whatever, you're somebody from your past is coming into the present and it's just not making it easy. You're thinking about somebody from your past and you're trying to make way in your present. and it's just not working. And now this new situation is seeming like it's gonna end. With this snake eating the end of its tail, like the regeneration, the constant circle, you're in a constant cycle. With Bluebeard energy, now with the other people, with the young girl energy, it was easy to say like, yes, you're gonna get out of this. But with this Bluebeard energy, it's just not that simple. You unfortunately are looking at a lifetime of cyclical relationships. Like with the Bluebeard energy, and although, like I said, I could be giving you the benefit of the doubt and being a little polite to you now by saying that you may not have intended for your relationships to end the way that they did now, all of your relationships to end the way that they did as of now, but this is cyclical for you. So unless you make a change, this is just going to continue to happen, and that's a fact. So let's talk about what's either hindering you or enhancing you. The Bluebeard energy, conflict, willpower, hostility, jealousy, stubbornness, aggression, fear, competitiveness, and controversy. So this is obviously what hinders Bluebeard energy. And this right here is the exact answer to the turning point, the cyclical energy, how to stop that cyclical energy, right? Your will to power, your desire for power, your desire to control other people, it needs to be aborted. You need to extract that from your life, right? Jealousy, hostility, feeling jealous, never feeling enough for other people. These things usually stem from abandonment issues. Usually Bluebeard energy has extreme abandonment issues. They just don't want people to leave them. They've probably been left in the past. You probably had a horrible childhood, and So you probably had a horrible childhood. Okay. So the point is that the thing that's hindering you most in life is that your will to continue this conflict. You like it. It creates some type of, feeling for you, and now you're trying to chase that feeling. We talked about in the last one with the women that there is always this sense of this feeling that Bluebeard energy gives. It's this exhaustion, this seduction, this pleasure, this excitement, this adrenaline rush, adventure. Those things come from fear, right? When you're in a haunted house, when you're in a roller coaster, a lot of the reason it's exciting is because it's scary, right? And you love bringing that fear to people. You love bringing, as much as you bring the excitement, you know what it takes to get people excited. And I feel like you're kind of like the type of person, I'm getting chills right now. I don't like Bluebeard energy, but you're the type of person where it's kind of like you want to tell people like, you guys don't even know what it takes, like the real aggression and the real power and the real like strength it takes to bring you this excitement, like the real depth of me that it takes to bring you this excitement. So you feel entitled and to a lot of the things in your life, because you're like, damn, like I bring these things pleasure, I bring the excitement, I bring the joy, I bring the fear, right? And I have to go deep inside myself to get that shit for you guys. Like, nah, like you owe me kind of thing. But really, I'm gonna tell you, you ain't going that deep. It doesn't take much to create fear. So that's just honest. Okay. So 2 is your personality, the personality of Bluebeard in the story. It's funny because and this is energy that I believe you should have more of, and it's the energy that Bluebeard missed. So a timely departure, letting go, withdrawal, reevaluation, retirement, don't hesitate to walk away. Now talking about the cycle, right? Bluebeard had a retirement. They killed him at the end. He's dead, right? He didn't know when to walk away, right? With this cyclical energy and knowing that everything you do is going to be cyclical, why do you keep waiting for the end? If things aren't okay, if things feel like they're becoming a pattern for you, leave. Why are you waiting for women to find your secrets? Why are you waiting for the ex to come back? And not for nothing, law of attraction is very real. Very real. The more you think about these bad things happening, of course they're gonna happen. If you keep laying next to your new girl thinking about your ex, and trying to manifest your ex in your mind and in your soul, and you're fornicating with the new girl, but you're dreaming about the old girl, and you're doing all these things, and then you get shocked when the old girl comes back and she's trying to call your phone, and now you're trying to play it off to the ex, and you're playing all these games and doing all these things, and now you know that the person you're going to be, the person you're with or trying to be with, like, you know that they're gonna find everything out. You know that all your lies are gonna come out. Like, I wish that more people who lied would just walk away. Like, we don't, like, people who have been lied to, I'm telling you, for the sake of people who have been lied to, we don't need your explanations for why you lied. Just tell us you lied and move on, because honestly, it gets to a point where your explanations are just excuses and it just becomes mind games. So why are you playing mind games with people? Just walk away, retreat, stop yourself. A timely departure. As soon as she said, I'm going upstairs to compose myself, he should have got the out of there, because if he would have dipped, them brothers would have never caught him. So Earth, the energy that you bring to others. Oh, I'm gonna be mad at that shadow, but anyways, nourishment, health, well-being, providing for others, creating balance, nourishing the body, mind, and soul. This is 9 energy, and I think this is very important because in the other reading I pointed out that Bluebeard energy is very on 9 energy, and that is what Bluebeard energy does bring to the world. Bluebeard energy does have the possibility to be of service to others, right? They just unfortunately, once the Bluebeard energy matures, it tends to become more and more and more and more selfish. So if Bluebeard energy, if you can actually realize that the people around you, like a lot of the people in your life most likely do have a real true affinity for you, right? You're the one who's actually creating this negative, toxic, shallow, codependent love situation, right? And you're the one repeating patterns and repeating cycles and choosing people who fit the pattern and fit your cycle, right? So if you go out of that cycle, right, you can actually pull into the other aspects of Bluebeard energy, and you can heal and you can create balance and mind and bring balance the mind and the spirit for people, right? Now, with that being said, is on the flip side of that, right, of what we talked about over here, of what you're bringing to people, you are convincing yourself that you're already doing that. You're convincing yourself that you're bringing healing, that you bring a sense of well-being, that you provide for others, that you do things for other people. But what I'm telling you is that you need to check your intentions, because right now in Bluebeard energy, if you resonate with this story and what we see from the mature Bluebeard, is that Bluebeard is not doing anything for others. That whole week, that Bluebeard may feel like he was doing something for them because he gave them, you know, a week in his mansion and he let the sisters come for, he's not letting anybody do any, he doesn't own this universe. You don't own the earth. You don't give people permission to use this earth, and you need to understand that, right? And you also don't give people permission to love you. And I want to point that out too, is that you don't own other people's love on you, or other people's stake of love on you, right? You are what you love, not what loves you, right? And that goes for the flip side. You do not own the people you love. Just because you love somebody doesn't mean you own them. So it just kind of like, you need to remember and understand intentions when you're dealing with people. So for number 4, what we have is metal, and that is the connection to self. What we have is unpredictability, a shakeup that's a wake up, a shock, a crisis, an upheaval. And what this is really showing is that your connection to self is extremely shaky, right? Lightning. This is showing that you, unfortunately, honestly, this is coming to me with the lightning. You should honestly, if you're into Orishas or you're have any interest in Orishas, and now that I'm thinking about it, I might do an Orisha story. But Shango, I would really look into Shango energy, especially with this red. But Shango is the Orisha, and he had multiple wives. He had a lot of Bluebeard energy on him. I don't know, I didn't put that together before. Very interesting. But Shango, I would definitely look into Shango and look into his story, but he controls lightning. And the point is that what you're feeling right now is a lack of identity. You experienced a crisis probably in your childhood. You probably had an extremely bad childhood. just something tragic or very bad that happened to you, and and from that time you never had the time to create a stable foundation. I don't even think that you know or understand that you don't have a stable foundation. I think that you think that conflict and this arousal, this crisis, I think that you think that these things are normal. What I want to say about Bluebeard energy is Bluebeard energy is also a part of the victim consciousness, right? Because like we said, everything is linked. There's always that duality. If the empath is down there, then so is the narcissist, and both of those do live in the victim consciousness, right? With the narcissist living in that victim consciousness, you're living in this world where you don't even realize that it's so ungrounded. It is literally so, like, you can't plant anything here. You can't do anything here. You have no ground to plant seeds. So because you have no ground to plant seeds, you keep finding people who are like shaky ground as well, or just don't know how to like connect to self as well either, who are willing to like bow to anything, right? Because that's what the Maiden energy is. So that exactly, you get people who are literally just ready to bow to you. They hear lightning's gonna come, they hear a storm's gonna come, and they seek shelter. And guess what? Guess where you at? You the shelter. You here to shelter them. And it's literally your whole little setup. It's literally a whole game for you. So your subconscious energy, it's whole game for you. The subconscious energy is insight, inner knowing, wisdom, etc., etc. I think that this is interesting because what it says on this card is penetrating illusion. Right now, what you're creating for yourself is a whole illusion of control and a whole illusion of power. And you think that you have wisdom and you think that you're being smart by creating this fear and creating this cycle and by continuing this cycle. And you think that you're in power because you have people playing in your game with you, right? But unfortunately, that's not true wisdom. That's not true knowing. And you lack that knowledge because you lack self, right? So you need to look deeper into self, find a foundation for yourself that is spiritual, mental, and physical. And you need to clarify, you need to penetrate the illusions, and you need to start figuring out what the true definition of power is. I would actually implore you to actually look in the dictionary, explore different things about power, and start understanding it, not from an aspect of government, but understanding it from an aspect of spirit. Right when I said that, this popped out. Temperance. Temperance is prudence, discipline. This is very interesting. Yes. You need to understand that true power comes from being still. True power comes from being disciplined. True power comes from disciplining of the self, not disciplining of others. Two of Pentacles. Yeah, always juggling two different energies. With the Bluebeard energy, it's very, 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 very common that you have multiple lovers, or that you seek multiple lovers, multiple relationships. And I think that this is what this is saying with the Temperance card is really like, chill out. You're juggling too much. You're doing too much. Look inside of yourself. In the inner knowing, and allow yourself to penetrate those illusions, and you'll even penetrate these fake options for yourself. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, you'll penetrate the confusion. The next thing coming in is Chariot. And I think that this is important because the Chariot is the number 7, and it is represented by, it embodies a journey, victory over a situation or a problem, balance in the opposite polarities. I am so happy this card came up. That is such confirmation that I wasn't ranting and raving, and that was very important, the things that I said in the young girls reading. But regard to this, and it's also very important because both people are having the same issue. What did I say? This is a soulmate issue, right? You keep falling into soulmates, right? And I said in the last one, you don't have to keep meeting these soulmates. Like, you can, once you learn a lesson with a soulmate, you're supposed to learn the lesson and move on. You keep repeating the lessons over and over and over and over and over again because you're not learning the lesson, right? Just learn the lesson. The lesson is in your soul. And it was the same with the young girl. The lesson isn't in you. She doesn't need to study you. You don't need to study her. You need to study you. You need to go, you need to, and it's funny because the chariot is moving quickly. It's movement of a residence, whatever, so on and so forth. Move on and run as fast as you can away from the Maiden energy and into yourself, right? I'm just going to pull a couple more clarifier cards, and then I'm going to explain the moonology. Ten of Swords came up, and this is very interesting because I did a very good shuffle, and the Ten of Swords did come up in the other reading, so it is showing death of a situation, of a relationship. Right now, what the moonology is showing, it's telling you to really look at the bigger picture, right? You don't need to, just like with the other one, you do not need to, oh, that sucks. I kept mentioning the other one too. I know everybody's going to probably most likely watch both. Who knows? I'm the type of person who would watch both. But I just want to point out that what this is saying with the look at the bigger picture is that you do not need to look at like the details. You don't need to look at the logistics about who did what on what day and who said what on what day. None of that matters anymore. Okay. The bigger picture is that your soul is crying out for help and it needs help. So help it. And the new moon in Sagittarius shows luck is on your side. The reason I think it's important that luck is on your side came out here is because in the story, Bluebeard is not lucky. And the reason I say he's not lucky is because, like I said, he really sincerely thought nobody was going to come for him. He thought he was going to keep just killing these women. Little did he know, 2 brothers came. This is your luck, because if you're watching this, you're lucky, because I'm telling you, you keep messing with these girls, 2 brothers is coming. And I'm not even gonna, like, I don't even care about gender. Something will rain down on you. You cannot continue in this world to live in a cyclical life like that and destroy other people's lives, especially if we're talking about Bluebeard energy that is physically hurting the Maiden. I'm sorry, bro. The law will come down on you. But what I will say is that your luck is on your side, right? You can have the 10 of Cups, happiness, good things. You can have a life, a family. You can have a long-term relationship. You can have somebody that loves you. And 10 of Cups actually also represents money. And 10 of Swords also represents money, which is very important because I guess they want me to make sure that I mention and say, if you have Bluebeard energy, you are going to keep coming across money. You are going to keep coming into money. Don't ever think that just because you stop, because you cut off a cycle in one part of your life, that is going to cut off your financial cycle. A lot of Bluebeard energy, they look to the women or to the they look to their romantic partners to keep them stable financially. And what this is doing is, this is confirmation from spirit. If you're watching this, that's not gonna happen. Like, you're not gonna get cut off financially if you cut off the people in your life. The second you cut off this bad energy, the divine will repay you. The same way you've been collecting bad karma through these relationships is the same way you can change your luck and start collecting good karma, right? And collecting good karma isn't just out of the intent of collecting good karma, but just letting these people go because you know it's not the right thing to keep them in your life, right? So this is really what that is telling you. I'm feeling one more message. Yeah. I'm not telling you guys what that card is. You guys will have to wonder for the rest of your lives, I guess. I'm going to close this reading here because I think that this really wraps it up, especially if you do go ahead and watch the one for the young girl and then you watch this one. I think that these messages were pretty clear, so I hope that this was helpful. Don't just watch me from afar. Come closer. Like, share, and subscribe. And in the meantime, follow me on other social media platforms.